Welcome to Align Christ-Centered Yoga. My name is Linda and I'll be guiding our practice today. My question for you as you begin today is this: who is the God that you worship? What are his attributes? What is his character? I find it helpful to go back to the names that Jesus gave himself. And today I landed on the Good Shepherd, but I didn't come to it through the Gospels. I came to it through the prophet Isaiah. And Isaiah tells us this: He, God, he will tend his flock like a shepherd. He will gather the lambs in his arms. He will carry them in his bosom and gently lead those that are with young. The beautiful thing about this passage is that it comes to us in the middle of chapter 40, and the verses that precede it are about God's wrath, and the verses that follow it are about God's holiness. What comes before is all about the people and their unfaithfulness, their inability to follow God's law, and God tells them that their flesh will wither like grass. And what follows the verse tells us about God's majesty and God's holiness. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand and marked off the heavens with a span, enclosed the dust of the earth in a measure and weighed the mountains in scales and the hills on a balance? Despite the fact that we will wither like grass, that we continually fail, despite the fact that God is holy and majestic, he comes to us as a shepherd, gently leading us, gathering us in his arms. Come to a comfortable seated position, elevating hips up on a blanket or a block, maybe rocking a little bit side to side, front to back, finding those sitting bones. And as you anchor into the sitting bones, find breath. As you begin today, notice, what's the quality of your breath? Are you breathing quickly or slowly? Is the breath shallow or deep? Begin to deepen the breath, inhaling down the body, filling the lungs with air, opening up the rib cage, breathing all the way down into that diaphragm muscle, and exhale up. As the breath moves freely through the body, begin to think about the ways that God has been a shepherd to you. Where is he gently leading to you? How is the body moving with the breath? Bringing the hands down to the side, begin to connect breath and movement, arms rising up and overhead, palms together, and exhaling, bringing the hands down. And 2 more times here, leading with breath, noticing what it feels like as those arms rise overhead. And can you support that with breath, pushing up with the breath, pulling down with the exhale, keeping the hands down on the mat, shrug the shoulders up to your ears. And as you shrug them up, can you shrug them up without squeezing them? And exhale and let them drop. Let go of the day behind you, and let go of the day to come. Deep breath in, maybe an audible exhale. 1 more time. Take a deep breath in, arms rise, up and overhead, palms together. And again, as you breathe, lift those arms up. Then I invite you to take the arms out so that the hands are just a little wider than shoulder width, those thumbs pressing a little bit towards the corners behind you. So today we're going to explore staff pose, which is simply sitting straight with your legs out in front of you, but often surprisingly difficult for me. So let's find the support from hip to hip across the abdominals, the belly button in towards the spine and slightly up, the rib cage soft, shoulder blades gliding a little bit down the back as the arms come up. Exhaling, hands come down. Come off the block or blanket if you're on one. Bring any props that you have towards the front of the mat and extend that right leg out to the side. Go ahead and windshield wiper the foot, bounce the knee. Actually, before we do this, let's go ahead and just do a check-in. Let's find staff pose and just notice where you are as you begin today. So feet hip width apart, find the sitting bones, deep breath in, push those arms up. Flex the feet, activate the muscles of the legs. What is talking to you right now? What sensations do you notice? Now bring the arms down, that right leg out to the side, turn towards it. Let's stretch those hamstrings a little bit. So again, activating the muscles of the legs. Exhale as you come forward. Inhale as you rise. Back and forth here. As you're ready, come forward and settle. Lengthening through the spine. Let the head come down. Release any tension in the neck, maybe shaking the head out no and yes. Consider crossing the wrists one over the other. Maybe hands are still on the mat, maybe reaching around the foot. As you inhale, lengthen through the spine a little bit more. And as you exhale, draw those elbows towards the rib cage. Taking a deep breath in, gently come up about halfway. Bring that right hand to the center of the thigh. Press down and take 2 breaths here. And deep breath in as you rise, exhaling, come forward. Notice where this stretch is now. What has shifted and changed? Gently pressing into the hands, rise up. Same thing on the other side. So you're just going to bring this left leg out to the side. Again, activating the muscles of the legs. The heel forward, the hip crease back. Exhale as the body folds. Inhale as the body rises. Back and forth here. And one more time. And as you're ready, come forward. Again, crossing the wrist, maybe the other arm is on top this time. Inhaling, the spine gets longer. Exhaling, engage those abdominals a little bit more. Maybe the elbows draw back, rib cage forward. Release tension in the neck. I invite you to come up about halfway, that left hand to the center of the thigh. So again, just press that thigh down. 2 breaths here. Deep breath in, rise up, and exhaling, come forward. Let the top of the head come down towards the mat a little bit. What do you notice about the stretch now? And taking a deep breath in, press into those hands and come up. Let's check in and find that staff pose again. So bounce the knees and windshield wiper the feet. Then gently walk yourself back using those sitting bones, using those hips. And walk yourself forward. So can you isolate the hips? Or does the whole body kind of move together as one big block? One more time, coming back just a little bit. And then settle into the sitting bones. Engage the muscles of the legs. Deep breath in, arms rise, push them up. And then exhale, shoulders are still up. Arms are reaching, thumbs are kind of towards the corners behind you, not too drastic. How does staff pose feel? Exhaling, bring the hands down and meet me in table. So hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Find a little bubble of air in the palm of your hand. Maybe the fingers grip towards the wrist a little bit. Eyes of the elbows, inside of the elbows, facing towards each other. Shoulders back. Exhale into cat. Inhale into cow. Back and forth here, leading with breath. It's warming up the muscles of the back and noticing what's going on in the back today. If your lower back is really tight, staff pose will be uncomfortable. As you're ready, meet me in table. Take a deep breath in, rise up into kneeling mountain, and then exhaling, bring the hands forward, hips to heels, meet me in child. So twice more here, kneeling mountain to child, moving with your breath. Inhale as you rise. Exhale as you come down, and maybe as you come into that kneeling mountain, you're recreating some of those sensations in staff pose, finding that connection from shoulder to hip. And the next inhale, come back to table, and then tilt the hips down towards the mat, curl the toes under. I invite you to bring the knees up in towards that rib cage and shake the head out, no and yes. Engaging the abdominals, begin to pedal through your feet and notice how the arms and shoulders feel. And if they're really tight, maybe the arms come a little bit wider. Maybe those pointer fingers point towards the front corners of the mat. Deep breath in, heels rise. Exhaling, bring those heels back down to the mat, meeting me in downward dog. And I invite you to stay here for 2 breaths, just checking in. What's going on? And that next inhale, right leg rises. Gaze forward, foot comes in between the hands. Take that back knee down and up, beginning to stretch and lengthen through the psoas. That psoas muscle on the front of the hip, wrapping around all the way up towards that diaphragm in the abdominal cavity. As you're ready, raise that back leg. Bring the thigh to the sky, press into that inside hand, sweep that right arm all the way up in a twist. Just notice, how freely do those ribs move as they wrap around the spine. And then exhaling, bring that hand to either side of the foot. Foot comes to the back, meet me in plank. From plank, come down to the knees, child to table. Cow to cat. Tilt the hips back towards the mat, curl the toes under, meet me in downward dog. Stay here for a couple more breaths. Deep breath in, left leg rises high. And as the gaze comes forward, the foot comes all the way through and that back knee taps down and up. Maybe one more time here, and then let that thigh rise to the sky. Press that heel back behind you. Press into that inside hand, that right arm. Sweep that left arm out. Wrap those ribs around. Find your breath. One more breath here. Notice what you notice. And exhale, hands to either side of the foot. This time the back foot comes forward, meeting me in your first forward fold. Hold on to the elbows, top of the head towards the mat. Again, shake it out. No. And yes. Hands to shins, rise up halfway. Exhaling, come down, and then pushing through the feet, come all the way up. Palms rise, exhaling, hands to heart. Settle here. Find your breath. Again, just noticing. Notice your alignment. Top of the head rising, body coming up and out of those hips, lengthening through the spine, shoulders over hips. Deep breath in, arms rise, exhale, forward fold. Hands to shins, rise up halfway, exhaling, come down one leg back and then the other, meet me in plank, and from plank, come all the way down to the mat. I invite you to take your arms out a little bit wide, your legs out a little bit wide. Taking a deep breath in, lift the right arm and left leg as you press down with the left arm and the right leg. And release. Other side. So strengthening a little bit through the lower back here. Can you start this from the lower back so that there's a little bit of a hip tilt and then the leg and the arm lift. And one more time each side. As you're ready, bring the hands to rib cage. I invite you to come back to table. Child to table. Cow to cat. Tilt back into that cow. Curl the toes under and meet me in downward dog. Check in here for 3 breaths. Maybe adjusting the arms a little bit, the hands a little bit. Engaging the muscles of the legs, those hips reaching to where the ceiling meets the wall behind you. How can you use the breath to find more length up and down the sides of the body? That next inhale, the right leg rises high, gaze forward, foot comes all the way through, rise up into your lunge. And right hand comes to the small of the back and the left arm comes across, and find your twist here. So gently just bring the arm against the leg against the arm. Find a little bit of traction. Maybe the shoulders can drop and relax a little bit here. And deep breath in, arms rise, and exhaling, bring the hands down to either side of the foot, maybe bringing blocks along the way. Begin to straighten and bend that front leg. Again, finding a hamstring stretch. And as you're ready, settle into your hamstring stretch. Let the head come down. Engage the abdominals. Does that change it? One more breath here. As you're ready, knee over the ankle. Front foot to the back, meet me in plank. From plank, drop down to the knees, child to table. Cow to cat, cat to cow. Start with cat. Curling the toes under, meet me in downward dog. What do you notice? Deep breath in, left leg rises high. Again, just float it in between the hands, rise into your lunge. Left hand comes behind the small of the back, right arm comes into that twist. Begin to use the traction. Maybe as you engage the abdominals, you can lengthen through the spine a little bit more. The next inhale, let the arms rise high. And then exhaling, bring hands to either side of the foot. Again, maybe bringing those blocks along for the ride. And straighten and bend that front leg a few times. And find your hamstring stretch. So it's okay if the leg is bent. Just find what works for you. Again, maybe as the head gets heavy, you shake it out a little bit. As you're ready, bring that front knee over the ankle. Push the back foot forward and meet me in forward fold. Hands to one heel, gently just bring those hands around to the other side and let the upper body swing a little bit. No bark. No bark. As you're ready, find your forward fold. Hands to shins, rise up halfway and exhale down and come all the way up to mountain pose. I invite you today to bring those arms out just a little bit. Again, inhale, length up and down the sides of the body. Press down through the feet. Feet are hip width apart. Make any adjustments that you want to make. And notice how it feels, finger to elbow and elbow to shoulder and shoulder to hip and hip to heel. Exhaling, hands to heart. Step into that right foot. Bring that left leg back and find warrior one. So that back foot is now angled towards the outside edge of the mat. My pinky toe is actually touching the outside edge of the mat, so legs are a little wider than hip width apart. Hips are generally facing forward. Engage the abdominals, let the arms rise. Straightening out that front leg. Exhale, bring that opposite arm all the way forward as far as you can and back up. And 3 more times here, moving with your breath and moving within your range of motion. So yoga should never hurt. As you're ready, lunge that leg forward, finding your warrior one again, and bring your arms down and to the outside, and then cross one arm over the other. Hinge the hips forward, lunge forward, and then bring the body back, straightening out the leg. Lunge forward, hip hinge, come back. 2 more times here, finding a little bit of shoulder release in that rotator cuff. And then one more time, warrior one, that knee comes forward, the arms rise. Thumbs are gently pointing towards those corners behind you. Notice the curves of the spine. So I tend to overarch my back. Maybe you round your shoulders, maybe you overarch your back, maybe you are great. But I need to draw those abdominals in a little bit more, soften that rib cage, take some of that extra curve out. Exhaling, go ahead and bring the hands to either side of the foot. Bring that back foot to center. Front foot comes to the back. Meet me in plank. From plank, drop down to your knees, child to table. Cow to cat. Curling the toes under. Meet me in downward facing dog. Check in and notice what you notice. On that next inhale, draw the gaze forward and bring the feet forward into forward fold. And settle into your forward fold. And hands to shins, rise up halfway, and exhaling, come down and pushing through the feet, rise all the way up, palms together. Exhale, hands to heart. For just a moment, check in, remembering what it felt like the last time you were here in mountain, noticing now, maybe quality of breath, the way that your feet are connected to the mat, any sensations in the body, emotions, attitude. What do you notice? Stepping into that left foot, bring that right foot back to warrior one. So again, just angling the foot slightly forward. Nice wide stance. Hips pointing generally towards the front of the mat. Arms up. Straightening out that front leg. Same hand comes to thigh. Engage the abdominals as you come all the way forward and rise up. And continue here. 3 more times. Gently draw that knee forward, find your warrior again. This time bringing the elbows down to your side, crossing those arms one on top of the other, and maybe the other arm is on top this time. Hinge forward with the body, and then and the arms come out, there we go. Other arm on top, come back, leg is straight. Exhale forward, hinge, come back. So a few more times here. Right? Again, just noticing what's going on in the back, in the shoulders. Where is your weight? Can you keep it evenly in both feet as the body moves? One more time. Come back into your warrior. Invite you to check in again here. Just noticing the curves of the back, maybe re-engaging that abdominal wall, finding alignment, fingers to shoulders and shoulders to hip. As you're ready, hands come down to either side of the foot. That back foot comes to the center and the front foot comes to the back. Meet me in plank. From plank, draw down to the knees, child to table twice. And I invite you to come to a sitting position and bring the feet forward. So let's check in on staff pose again. So shake the legs out and windshield wiper the feet. Maybe walk those hips back and forward. Take a deep breath in, arms rise. How does your staff pose feel now? So let's continue to stretch out those hamstrings. I invite you to take a block if you have one and bring it underneath your knees. Maybe it's all the way up. Maybe it's just up a level. Just bending the knees so that they're supported. Beginning to hinge at the hip, go ahead and massage out at that hip crease. Hands to thighs. Just take those hands down the legs and find your stretch. So bring the ribs towards the thighs. Again, lengthen through the spine. Maybe cross the wrists. Maybe the head drops. Maybe it feels better to keep a longer spine and head in alignment with the spine. And since we're thinking about staff pose, let's all do that. So just keep the head in alignment with the rest of the back and keep the back straight-ish. And then as you're ready, press into your hands and come up. So doing that one more time, maybe you keep the block there, or maybe legs are down at the mat now if you're feeling a little bit more flexible today. And again, just finding this release at the crease of the hip here. Massage it out. Take those hands down, ribs towards thighs. Find your stretch. Maybe the wrists cross, maybe not. What happens if you flex the feet a little more or walk those hips back a little bit more? Find your stretch and your edge. No shaking, no pain. Taking a deep breath in, press into the hands and rise up. I invite you to go ahead and bring this right foot to the inside of the knee. The arms rise up and exhale towards that leg. Cartwheel the hand down behind you, lengthen through the spine a little bit, and bring the arm maybe across the leg. Maybe that doesn't really work for your body and you just wrap your arm, but find a twist here. I invite you to stay here for another breath. And release. Other side, that foot just comes up to the inside of the knee. Lengthen. Reach those hands to the sky. Cartwheel that back hand behind you. See if you can keep the spine straight up and down. I know I have a tendency to start to lean back into it. Wrap the rib cage around the body. Maybe the arm comes across. Maybe it works for you to have that arm across the leg. Find your twist. How can breath help you release a little bit more? As you're ready, gently come back to center. Bring the feet forward. Deep breath in, arms rise. Find your staff pose here. We're actually going to stay here for 5 breaths. So if you need to shift anything, go ahead. Start to just notice, how has the body responded to your practice today? How are things different than they were when you started? Can you engage the abdominals a little more? What does it feel like to breathe a little more length into the arms? Maybe you can engage the muscles of the legs a little more. One more breath. Gently bring the hands down to either side, bend your knees and come down onto your back. Keep a block near your hips if you have one. Knees bent. For just a moment, notice how the back feels. How has it settled onto the mat? How's the breath moving through the body? Hands to hips. I invite you to find bridge pose as you tilt the hips. Gently draw the back up off the mat, one vertebra at a time if you can. Again, just noticing, maybe it feels a little clunky tonight, maybe a little stuck, or maybe it's smoothly moving back and forth. Just continue here for 2 more times. Inhale up and exhale down. Again, settling into the mat, notice the way that the back has settled. Where are there curves? Where have you settled? And then take that block, lift the hip up just enough that you can slide this block underneath the back, above the tailbone and below the spine. So it is underneath the sacrum bone that connects those. Maybe this is where you stay and this feels pretty good. Maybe you'd like to go ahead and raise one leg up to the sky and then the other. It's kind of a modified staff's pose here. Wherever you are, let the back get heavy in that block. Begin to feel the breath move through the body. I invite you to stay here for one more breath. If your legs are up one at a time, bring them back down to the mat. Find your supported bridge for one more breath. And gently pressing through your feet, lift your hips up just enough that you can slide that block out of the way. Feet off the mat, bring hands to knees, and begin to circle the knees on the ceiling. As you're ready, go the other direction. Gently draw the knees into the rib cage and away, back and forth here. And feet to the mat, extend the legs long. Gently windshield wiper your feet and bounce your knees. Begin to find Shavasana. I invite you to bring your hands up to the ceiling. Reach as high as you can. Let the shoulders thump down. Twice more here. As the hands come down, I invite you to open the palms, inviting the whispering of the Spirit, His gentle leading and nudging. feeling the warmth and love of Christ's embrace flow over you. I invite you to stay here a little longer if you can. If you need to move on with your day, gently bring yourself back to this time and this space. Reconnect with your breath, noticing the way the breath is moving through the body. How has the body settled onto the mat? Gently bring movement back, wiggling fingers and toes, rotating wrists and ankles, turning your head side to side. And on that next inhale, bring arms up and overhead and reach as long as you can. Fingers to one wall and toes to the other. And deep breath in, bend your knees and roll over onto your side. And find your breath here. Pressing into your hands, rise up to a sitting position. Finding your sitting bones again. Maybe one final staff pose check-in. Noticing what you notice. And cross those legs comfortably in front of you. Hands to heart, check in one final time, body, mind, and soul. Noticing what has changed since you started your practice today. Noticing also what has stayed the same, accepting it as it is. A deep breath in, arms rise up and overhead. Stretch and bring hands to prayer one final time, hands to heart, bowing your head, joining me in prayer. Jesus, shepherd of our souls, we thank you that you are faithful and good, that no matter how many times we stray, no matter how many times we fail, that you are always there, that you search out the one and leave the 99 behind if necessary, gathering us into your arms, gently leading us. Father, we ask that as we become more like you, that you guide us to those who need a shepherd in their lives, that we may be for them who you are to us, so that they may know you, they may know your character, your goodness, your gentleness, your love. It is in the name of Jesus the Christ that we pray. Amen. Thank you for practicing with me today.